Hello and welcome to Rise, Hope and Healing After Sexual Betrayal. If you're just joining us and you've just discovered betrayal, we invite you to check out our Season 1, which was created specifically with you in mind. And it also has a companion online course at humanintimacy.com. If our conversation today is helpful for you, we invite you to share it so that others don't have to walk alone. We are so glad that you're here. Welcome to Rise, Hope and Healing After Sexual Betrayal. Today, I'm joined by Debra Kaplan, and an author, a speaker, and a licensed therapist. She specializes in helping individuals with sexual addiction, compulsivity, sexual and financial infidelity. And we're going to be talking about betrayal and the impact of finances with betrayal. After a career on Wall Street, Ms. Kaplan transitioned into psychology, integrating her expertise in finance into clinical practice. She is the author for Love and Money, Exploring Sexual and Financial Betrayal in Relationships, Battle of the Titans, Mastering the Forces of Sex, Money, and Power in Relationships, and the lead author of Coupleship Inc., From Financial Conflict to Financial Intimacy. She facilitates workshops, trainings, and intensives for clients who desire to work on their emotional, sexual, and financial intimacy. And I will add to that she's a trainer, that she's an educator, because I had the privilege of sitting in some trainings with Deb. And so, Deb, I'd love to hear you introduce something that's fun or exciting or unique about you, as well as everything that we've already just shared.
Ooh, wow, that's a pop quiz. I am an avid F1 fan.
F1 as in race cars?
As in Formula One racing. Yeah, I don't race. I am an enthusiast. I love all the inside baseball, if you will, of the F1 racing. And when I was a teenager, I was in Monaco when the Monaco Grand Prix was going on. And I was like, what is all that noise? Because it echoes through the canyons. It echoes throughout all of Monaco. And I attended and I was hooked.
Oh, wonderful. That is not something I expected. I'm really thrilled to have you be here. And I'd love to start out with just asking you, how do you define financial betrayal, Deb?
Financial betrayal or financial infidelity, it flexes to both, really can be as simple as a partner who makes a small purchase, doesn't matter what the purchase is, and it's outside the budget of what the coupleship has agreed upon, and then it becomes known on the credit card statement or the bills, or they are over an account, and therefore they are checks and or their balances are out of alignment. It could be as simple as, oh yeah, I bought this, forgot to tell you, or I didn't allot for it and didn't put money in the account. Now, fast forward to the other side, obviously, is the real heavy duty and very traumatic financial infidelity around spending monies, debt, affairs, paying monies, embezzlement, stealing, or by any other name, writing checks or withdrawals out of accounts that are for both partners, although one partner does not know about this. Changing of beneficiaries on bank accounts, insurance accounts, children's accounts, and or maybe potentially tax fraud. Now, as extreme as all that sounds, it happens, and it's devastating. So there's your spectrum.
So we often talk about the betrayal trauma, PTSD impacts. Do those show up the same way with financial infidelity?
The sexual betrayal may have a beginning and an end. There may be sexually transmitted diseases, and maybe there isn't an end. But sometimes the financial betrayal, the infidelity, has much more impactful devastation because of the detrimental depletion of finances that would be compounding over time and growing into retirement, accounts that are for retirement. And the partner learns, now the money is not there. I am perhaps in or past my greatest earning years, and I cannot make that money up. We cannot make that money materialize. That has greater injury on an individual's life and the family than just the sexual betrayal. And it isn't always obvious from the get-go. It may become obvious. It may be discovered along with the sexual betrayal. And at times it's figured out after the fact because it sits below the surface. So the devastation of financial infidelity has its own traumatic betrayal that I think is much more impactful ultimately.
So this is a whole other layer, not just my safety net of my partner that I could turn to, but also my financial safety net underneath that, oh, if I have the financial foundation, I can get through the the relational. But this is wiping out both of those.
Yeah, the horrible broken trust by a loved one is a breach of safety. The financial infidelity is a breach of security. Money is security. Money equals a lot of things for many people. We all have a relationship with and to money. Money is by and large security. If I have money, I have clothing, food, shelter, I know I can get through something. But when that bedrock is pulled out from under or under threat, and there is not the financial security, that hits on a very fundamental level that is different, still very much injurious and traumatic, but different than the sexual betrayal.
And that makes sense because that's this vulnerability, this level, and this fear of what am I going to do? How am I going to do this when I don't have those resources? I'm wondering, especially in betrayal trauma recovery, about the financial aspect being overlooked. How often do you see it not being addressed? And what are the impacts that you see with that when it does get overlooked?
The assumption is that there is financial infidelity there that is not being addressed. So I don't make an assumption with all clients or scenarios. I educate partners and couples on the fact that if you are not thinking in terms of how active, proactive, or educated are you about your finances, you leave yourself really vulnerable. I'll never forget, I was doing a podcast interview, and the interviewer was very vulnerable and shared a personal story about their own parents. And their parents had experienced the sexual infidelity and how the financial infidelity showed up. The interviewer was the younger child. And so what they recognized was, oh, I don't get some of the things I would have gotten. I don't get some of the monies or the ability to buy things or have the financial security in the house, or maybe college accounts were depleted, that now I'm going to college if I choose to, but now it's not being paid in the same way, or I can't do higher education. So I educate people to think not just of your own betrayal, but the ripple effect of the loss of asset to the family system.
And so many times we don't recognize that damage and the system and generations that are impacted.
That's
Yeah.
correct.
So I think one of the questions our listeners and viewers may be asking is, can you speak the balance of privacy?
Let's talk about privacy and secrecy. What's something that is private and something that is secret? It may be private that I am in recovery. Now, I choose to share it with whom I choose to share it with. If I've chosen not to share it, and perhaps somebody else has said about me, oh, she's in recovery. It's my information that was shared about me, but I didn't share it. So in privacy, I control what I choose to share. And in a secret, you don't really have control over how that secret may come out. In financial agreements within a relationship, some couples each have an individual account. They may also have a joint account. And out of that joint account, they both decide how to spend our money. If I'm spending and I'm choosing not to tell you and I'm keeping it private, it doesn't really help to earn trust. And when an individual already has a history of being betrayed, That really increases one's sense of anxiety and fear. It elevates that sense of, what are you not telling me? So keeping secrets are not necessarily healthy for any relationship. Now, it might be for a good reason. Or I'm going to have a party for you and I'm not going to tell you about it, so I'm spending money, or I'm buying you a gift. Now, those are certainly understandable and outside the realm of what we're talking about. But I think that keeping secrets, holding back information for fear of what the partner will say, either partner, is in and of itself a problem because of the lack of trust, even if there hasn't been betrayal. But if there is privacy between two individuals and they've agreed, it's the rules of our engagement, well, that's fine. That's how we've agreed to live our life, and what you do is your business, and what you do is your business, and neither partner are worried because it's how they have both come to really sculpt the relationship. It's when one operates outside the realm of what two people have agreed to.
I'm hearing this aspect that we've agreed upon, but when there's been betrayal of the relationship, we hit that heightened, I don't know what I don't know.
The exploitation of trust is where it becomes also problematic, because if you have your account, MaryAnn, and I have my account, and I'm going off gambling or investing, I'm not telling you, and I'm losing money, I don't think that falls within the realm of, we've agreed to you do you and I do me, because it's holding potential detriment to our relationship. Should you find out that I've been gambling and I say, well, we've agreed that you do you and I do me, and you didn't ask, so I didn't tell you, it's just so injurious. Because what I'm basically saying is, you're the fool. You didn't choose to ask, it's on you, which is a flipping of the script. It is cauterizing to trying to build back trust if there is trust that has been breached. Again, the partner may say, hey, you lose your money, you lose your money. But if it's then creating a cascade effect of monies that are now being taken from a joint account so that the individual account has to be replenished, that's about, you've chosen to hide the information. You've chosen to exploit my innocence, not my naivete, my innocence, because I've trusted you. And so I tell partners, don't buy into the, well, you didn't ask, so it's your fault paradigm. That's psychologically not okay.
You brought up online gambling. I think there's also possibly a level of, we had this agreement of our values of who we are and how we act. And so, yes, you may have your money that we've agreed we both do what we want with our money, but this wasn't something that I expected. This goes against our values. So, can you speak to the shifting of values?
I want to reframe the supposition, because
Okay.
it may not be online gambling. Gambling is gambling. It's done much more prevalently online today, but it isn't always online. And it may not be a full-fledged addiction. What if it's just a compulsivity? What if it's just a hobby? Now, I'm supposing nothing's wrong with a hobby, nothing's wrong with a compulsivity. It's not a full-on addiction. What we're starting to wade into in that conversation is, what is problematic behavior, what is not? How does one glean what is problematic? I may say, hey, I take $100 every month. I'm gambling, I'm investing, I'm trading, whatever you want to call it. I don't want to get into a whole conversation about gambling. That's a very different episode. But
Yes.
for me to say, I'm just doing this, once a month. So if I lose 100, I lose 100. Then what's the conversation really about? That I'm engaging in a behavior that is raising concern for my partner, and I'm denying the sense that there may be a problem, or that I'm in denial that I do have a problem. Both of those, any of those, are part of the conversation. But it may not necessarily have to be an addiction that the financial spending is problematic, because it's being spent in ways that potentially set up a yellow red flag around what's going on here. You're not just buying Starbucks coffees and spending a lot of money, which in and of itself can be problematic, but it's more about what's happening here. That a partner's beginning to sense, behavior shift. Something's off. The pattern's different. I find with couples that the shift in values based on access to money often presents a newer, unexpected conflict in a relationship. So I've had couples say one or the other is spending a lot of money. And that gets into relationships and what I refer to as relational currency, what one brings to the relationship. One partner is accused of working compulsively. You work nonstop. You are spending all your time working. You don't spend time with the family. You're always on your phone. And yet, by the same hand, what that work produces in the form of income is enjoyed. And in that case, I help both parties look at what is your contribution to the cycle and what might you both be unaware of that is helping to feed the cycle. That is not to say you blame one party for the other's behavior. It's to say, what's my part in this cycle if it's been going on for a while? And that's a tough conversation to have with couples because I can be the one enjoying the benefits of income and I can be saying like, I'm not the one working. And based on how conflicted it is for the coupleship, I ask them to notice what's the price you're both paying for this? Or what's the benefit of the fact that partner A or B is working compulsively?
As you're saying with that couple, yes, you might be working compulsively, but it's providing for the lifestyle that we are enjoying.
One gets to enjoy the lifestyle. And for the person who works compulsively, what's the benefit? What's the payoff for you? Well, there is no payoff. I'm working compulsively. Do you not see how hard I'm working? Well, yeah, but what is it you get to enjoy by so doing? Or what do you get to avoid by so doing? And that's a whole different conversation. But money and work are somewhat parallel partners and ride along together in that conversation at times.
Awesome. In this podcast specifically, oftentimes we're talking to individuals who've been newly betrayed. And so I'm wondering, what are some financial boundaries that might be helpful for a newly betrayed partner who doesn't even know the scope?
Right. A very good shift and great question, because those that have been betrayed financially often don't even know where to start, much like you've just said. And many people are not understanding financial literacy. And I will also say something potentially inflammatory. I find that many female partners, even today, young and old, it does not matter what age they are, often say, I don't understand money. It's not a conversation I ever grew up having. I was always told, just marry somebody. Yes, that is still being echoed today. Just trust your partner, whatever. You may not know. You may not be educated, but asking the questions, reaching out for help, going to a financial professional, a planner, a financial advisor, an accountant, a CPA, legal professional, all of that might be really beneficial. I've had many situations where I am recommending that a legal professional be involved and a forensic accounting be hired, not cheap, but that there are money trails that no one person could follow, whether educated or not. So for the individual who's been betrayed and recognizing that there is a world within a world they don't understand, take a deep breath, ask for help, recognize that you don't have to know the answer. You just have to find the people who can help you. And when things settle down, agree with yourself that it's time for me to learn so that I feel empowered, that I'm not at a loss of, well, I never learned, so I can't. Yes, you can. And you can absolutely put a safety net, if you will, a support system in place. It could be as easy as just getting online for free education, financial literacy classes. There's software, there's programs, there are great apps that help plan and budget money. But to understand the emotional drivers That's different. That's something that one can't just get online. That is about financial therapy. I work with clients who say, look, I'm in the financial world. I'm a financial advisor. I'm an accountant. I'm a provost. I'm a fill in the blank. But my emotional landscape with money is what they're referring to, is so upside down. I don't know where to start. And so I tell them, you have a relationship to money. You're now, for example, maybe coming out of betrayal, or you're struggling to understand what it all means, or your tax accountant is saying to you, hey, you think you've been filing taxes, but you're not. It's about time to take control and to empower oneself to feel proactive on one's behalf so that one doesn't sit there feeling like I don't have the answers and I have to depend on someone else to get the answers. No, I'm going to fortify my support system, learn how to ask the questions, and when I don't know the answer, go to somebody who does. And there's no replacement for empowering that type of knowledge.
Mm. There's so many things in there that I want to expand on. So help us understand, what does financial abuse look like?
Financial abuse can look several ways. It could be sabotaging one's ability to earn. It can be about culling assets away from a partner by way of changing beneficiaries, by way of literally illegally changing names and signatories on accounts. It could be blocking access to funds, putting debt in one's name. It could be as simple as getting involved with scams, not through your own marriage, your own relationship, but if one is single and dating, that was a huge problem. Now, all of these sound rather extreme, but it's more common in the world I work with, and it is devastating. Financial abuse is a pretty dark form of betrayal and infidelity. It's some very sociopathic behavior.
Thank you for speaking to that. I'm wanting to touch on some of the things you also talked about earlier. I remember being in a training and they talked about a forensic accountant. And I know that you mentioned that here. I know so many times when I work with a betrayed partner who finds out I've been sexually betrayed, even when they're putting together questions for their disclosure, oftentimes they don't ask very much about the finances at all. And I remember being in a training and somebody saying, yeah, you might need a forensic accountant. And I was kinda like, what is that? And why would that be helpful for me? Can you speak to that part of it?
Yeah, I'll start with a financial disclosure may be just as significant and necessary as a sexual disclosure. If there is enough money involved in the sexual betrayal, that should perhaps sit in its own independent disclosure, and one prepares for that separately. When I facilitate disclosures, what are the gifts given? What's the financial value of the gifts? And what's the emotional value of the gifts? Some gifts go to the emotional jugular of a relationship because an emotional hurt, an emotional injury may be much more significant than the financial monetary cost of the item. A financial disclosure takes into account, and I outline all of this in Coupleship Inc., what financial infidelity is, isn't, and all the aspects of it. And financial disclosure involves all information, assets, accounts, what are the beneficiaries, monies that have flowed in and out. So you're looking for statements. Will one have access to all that? Probably, but may not. I may know where all the monies are. I may know because I have access to an account, but I may not understand where the flow of money has come and gone. Knowing how to follow the money and where monies go and how they're accounted for is what a forensic accountant helps with. It's more than just accounting because it's really doing investigative work and looking for, digging through, and understanding how money is hidden, how it's shifted accounts, how it travels, and where it gets placed. Now, some of it's starting to sound illegal. Yeah, maybe it is, or maybe it's taking advantage of legal financial loopholes. I have had partners that say, I can't make heads or tails over where all this money is. It's intermingled. So our private money is intermingled with the business money, which is a problem, that in and of itself. And I don't know because I don't have access to the businesses. My partner runs it, and I don't have access to that. I sign off on the tax returns, but I don't know what I'm signing. And a forensic accountant and or potentially an attorney, expensive as that is, could help really find out and see where the money has gone. I don't want to scare listeners, and that is the exception, not the norm.
And that makes sense. Those words sound like they could be a little bit scary. A forensic accountant, do I need that?
Right.
I want to go back to that empowerment piece that you were talking about as we were talking about the boundaries. I'll never forget, I had a client years ago in a group, and she was probably in her mid 60s. And she was in a place where she'd never had really access to her finances, didn't know what was going on. And I said, hey, I want you to go out and get your own bank account.
Great assignment.
She came back and was so empowered. Like, I opened up my own account. There's so much freedom. And so, as we were talking earlier about some of the boundaries, when we don't know what's going on, I think that's a first step of let me figure out how to at least control the part of my finances that I can.
And learn that I can. And recognize that I don't give myself enough credit to think that I can learn.
Right. So going back to the boundaries, I just found out I was betrayed. I have no idea where money's been going. Do I need to worry about freezing accounts? How do I start to regain some of my control over my money when I haven't had full control over it?
Yeah. First of all, it's very scary to not even know where to start and what paths to take and where to even dig in. Because in that moment of the betrayal, if there has also been sexual betrayal, emotional betrayal, which the emotional is clearly on board with the financial, but if there's been sexual betrayal, it's like getting a concussion. One is overloaded, they're flooded, the betrayed partner doesn't know where to begin. They can't really even think for themselves. They can't pick their head up. They're just devastated. They may have to deal with children involved or other family members. So just take a breath and recognize you can't do it all right now. Give grace to oneself to just be in the shock and know that you can't function in shock. So lean on therapists, guides, family, friends, get the support you need. And then little by little, as you begin to clear through the fog, take some steps and some measures, because in the initial moments, you can't function. And I tell partners, the next step, depending on the circumstances, is that there might be a need for a legal consult because you're needing information. Just get information. So I encourage partners, look, if you are delving into something you know nothing about or need more information and there's potential legalities, get legal consultation. You can get free 15-minute consults. Professionals will do that. If there is a financial professional on board already that you have not had much contact with, go speak to that person. Now, there are good and productive and healthy professionals, and then there are some that are not. They may need to get a new accountant or a new financial professional independent of the relationship so that they have a fresh set of eyes, because it's just too convoluted at that point within the shock of the discovered betrayal. And the partner doesn't have to have the answer. Start to look for and seek out the support of professionals who can guide you. When the time comes that you're able to think through this, if you need legal counsel, you've now already somewhat established relationships. You get a sense of who would I want to work with. If there's a need for other financial professionals, then you're beginning to establish an accounting relationship with someone who you will use. Most therapists don't know how to facilitate a financial disclosure, and I help guide them. But it is necessary in some cases to separate out the financial from the sexual, because it has its own impact and the partner deserves to know without having it convoluted by the sexual. And again, there may be some overlap, And in many cases, there may be no financial. Most cases don't have financial, but when there is, it could be pretty significant. And so I'd like the partner to have the benefit and the honor of having just that information. I work through all of this in Coupleship Inc. We have a whole chapter dedicated to financial disclosures.
And breaking it down just a little bit more, I'm putting together what you're saying. I'm thinking also, if I don't know what's been going on, I might just need to go to my bank and say, I need a printout statement.
Yes. In fact, thank you. I didn't even mention that. Yes, just go to your bank. If you're a signatory on the account and your name is on it, yeah, go get all that information. Start looking at it. Sit down with the banker and ask them to explain to me what's going on. And if they can't, bring it to your accountant.
And so start with what can I access, and then what I
Yes.
don't understand, then start seeking out that other professional help.
Yes. Thank you for that. Start with the basics.
You're welcome. All right. I know we've just got a couple minutes. I want to ask you, are there any other critical financial aspects that betrayed partners need to know about?
Yeah. In the circumstances where a betrayed partner does want to stay in the marriage, in the relationship, both partners want to rebuild trust. They want to work towards a new relationship. The advent of the betrayed partner wanting separate accounts, financial accounts, or my own name, partner's single name on an account, or wanting to look at statements, or wanting to continue to monitor. This is not about tracking. This is about knowing that both partners would benefit from being empowered and working as a team, not just one person doing the heavier lifting. And if, as it beckons back to yours and my initial conversations, if financial security, a partner knowing that there is money in this account that is mine only, and I have access to it single-handedly, and I feel more financially secure, then I can begin to relax into knowing, do I want to build a relationship with this person? I have a safety net here. There are reasons why couples may want a postnup. And it is important to discuss what a postnup is and what it isn't. I'm not going to go into the details here because I'm not a legal professional. But in those cases where a postnup is warranted and would build in the financial security that was breached prior in the betrayal, then that is an absolutely wonderful way to start, because the betrayed partner doesn't have to constantly sit in the, well, what if it happens again? Well, it might happen again. The betraying partner might actually betray you. We don't know. But you yourself are building that trust of self and the sense that I know I can come to my own assistance. Yes, it would hurt, but we don't predict the future anyway. And that I will be financially okay, and that I have taken measures and steps to make sure that myself, my children, my family, I'll be okay. So at risk is my heart, not my purse.
I love that you bring that up. I know in my own personal experience, early on, that was really important for me. This is an account that I have that only I have access to. And this is something that created safety for me.
And it's a much cleaner way to build a relationship instead of the partner saying, well, I'm going to keep squirreling some money away here just so I can't be hurt again, because that's starting now a new relationship on secrets, which circles right back to where we began. Ironically, right? The betrayed partner is keeping secrets because I don't want to get hurt again. There's no need to keep the secret. Establish that account and have the security, and it's out in the open in the relationship.
I'm so grateful for this conversation. And I know this could be a whole podcast in itself. So, final thoughts. What's the most important message that you would want to share as we wrap up today for betrayed partners?
Empower yourself. Don't believe in the message that I don't know, I'm not smart enough, it's too late for me to learn, I never understand this stuff. As elementary as that is, it's so fundamental to building that sense of self and authentic self-empowerment.
Thank you so much, Debra. I really appreciate your time today, and this has been an invaluable conversation. Thank
And
you.
it's been a pleasure talking with you, MaryAnn.